We're good.
Call meeting to order.
Need a mic. Good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting of the Orinda City Council. For those who are in attendance for the GHAD meeting, please note that we will take a recess from the City Council meeting after the consent calendar to begin the GHAD meeting and then return for the remainder of the City Council agenda. And for those of you here for public forum, that's before the consent calendar. Please be advised that there are assisted listening devices at the table in the back of the room for those who wish to use them. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll begin with the adoption of the agenda. First, are there any changes?
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Maybe I didn't put it on.
It's not in the script. But
Sorry.
We can learn.
Okay, so Councilmember Hoxie. Here. Councilmember G. Here. Councilmember Riley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Iverson.
Here.
And note for the record that Mayor Malkani is absent and has an excused absence.
Thank you. And now we'll proceed with the adoption of the agenda. And I'd like to ask first if there are any changes to the proposed agenda. All right. If not, do I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So moved. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll proceed to items for the good of the city. And tonight, we have a proclamation for Black History Month. I will not read the entire proclamation, but we would just like to say a word that this is a month that is a national celebration, both of the contributions to American history by all African American and Black Americans, as well as celebrating the achievements both nationally and here in the town of Orinda. I'd also like to compliment our schools for the wonderful job that they do of incorporating Black History Month into a lot of their school life and curriculum in the month of February and other times of year. With that, does anyone have anything to add? Great. We'll now move to public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Additionally, a speaker has the option of addressing the council on an item listed on the agenda if a speaker will not be present when that item is taken up. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to address the council? And before I begin, I do have one speaker card, Mr. Nick Warnoff, and we also got a written comment from Meredith Kreis, or Kreis, I'm not sure how she pronounces it. Please go ahead.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to turn myself in. I am self-reporting that I have expressed hate. And Ms. G, since you are the person who signed the proclamation that the council adopted last October 1, uniting us against hate, I am self-reporting myself to you. And I expect you to call the private hotline that's in the proclamation and report me as someone who expresses hate in our community. You know, when that was heard on October 1st, Vice Mayor Iverson expressed concerns about this vigilante activism. And Ms. Malkani was presiding then in your absence, Ms. G. She just dismissed that as a footnote. No one even sought to delete that from the proclamation, and even Councilmember Iverson then just voted for it. United Against Hate says we cannot express hate for any reason, regardless. So if someone comes in and kills a member of my family, I can't express hate? That is so wrong and so stupid. I'll tell you who else I hate. I hate the teachers in the school district who are forcing 11-year-olds to answer a written question. What is your pronoun? I don't even know if those kids know what a pronoun is, but the teachers don't ask. And this is just a couple of teachers because it's not school board policy. But I've seen the form. First day of school, what is your pronoun? assumes that the kids have a pronoun. Normalizing that kids should be expected to participate in this facade of being born in the wrong body. It's part of a movement to undermine our norms and our morals. We're not allowed to hate. We're not allowed to express hate, even towards evil. I sent you before this meeting some news. It's not old, but it's very important news that we shouldn't forget about the Houthis putting Yazidi girls in cages and burning them to death. And you can't express hate about that? I can't express hate about that because of your proclamation, or you're going to report me? This whole reporting thing is promoting vigilante action. The last thing we need in Orinda is vigilante action. So, Ms. G, you signed the proclamation. You signed the proclamation. Here's my cell phone. Here's my, go call the hotline right now. Go call it. Yeah, don't make faces at me. Don't make faces at me. You you signed the proclamation.
Thank you,
Tell
Dr.
it- Thank you.
Reynolds.
You're welcome.
That's 3
You
minutes.
signed the proclamation telling citizens to report. So have them report.
Your time is over, Mr. Warnoff. Thank you. The next speaker, would anyone like to make any comments, or shall we move on? The next speaker is Alicia. I can't tell if it's Kieran or Keenan.
Keenan.
Thank you. Please come up. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Alicia Keenan. I'm a parent. I'm a Orinda resident, parent of children in the Orinda Union School District and the Acalanes Union School District. And I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Orinda Network for Education, or ONE. First and foremost, I'm a parent. When my family moved to Orinda in 2016, we were drawn in by its reputation for strong schools and a tight-knit community. With 5 children, I knew that the quality of their education would shape not only their future, but also my family's experience in this town. What I didn't fully realize at the time was how much this community rallies behind its schools. Over the years, I have seen firsthand how parents, alumni, local businesses, and yes, empty nesters all come together to ensure that our schools remain strong. That kind of support doesn't happen everywhere. It's truly special about Orinda. That's why I felt compelled to get involved. I wanted to give back to the schools that are giving so much to my children. Becoming the president of ONE was a way for me to help sustain and grow this tradition of community-driven support for education. ONE Orinda is not just about raising funds, and our event in April at the Art and Garden Wild Center it's also about reinforcing the idea that our schools are at the heart of this community in Orinda. It's about ensuring that for many years and in future generations, students continue to benefit from the same incredible support that my children have received. I hope that you'll all join us in continuing the tradition of making a lasting impact on Orinda's community.
The next speaker is Emily Allen. I assume that's a continuation.
Hi, I'm Emily Allen. I'm the Executive Director of ONE. You may or may not be aware that our schools are among the lowest funded in the state according to the LCFF, the Local Control Funding Formula. On per pupil funding lists, we consistently rank near the bottom. What we receive from the state falls considerably short of the actual cost of educating our students. Because of this, our districts have long relied on local funding, most notably parcel taxes and community fundraising, primarily with our school families. Because of this supplemental support, our schools rank near the top in terms of success. In 2020, ONE was founded to centralize fundraising for our school districts, both OUSD and AUHSD. Before that, in addition to EFO, each school was responsible for their own fundraising. This model was complicated and led to disparities between school sites and created financial challenges for long-term planning. Many of us pushed for a unified foundation, and after much planning and advocacy, ONE was established. We are the largest nonprofit in our community and serve each and every school site and student in Orinda. Every dollar we raise bridges the financial gap, funding the educational programs that set Orinda students up for success, including technology, smaller class sizes, STEAM programs, wellness center and counselors, all middle school electives, expanded high school course offerings resulting in a 7-period day, including honors and advanced placement, increased college and career services, and so much more. One support adds richness and depth to the educational journey of all our students in our community. For over 40 years, the Orinda community has upheld a proud tradition of supporting its schools. What started as a grassroots effort by parents has grown into a foundation that raises $5.5 million annually to support all 6 of our schools. In addition to securing annual donations from our parent community, one engages with Orinda businesses, community members, empty nesters, and alumni to bolster our fundraising efforts. It takes the entire community to come together to sustain the excellence Orinda schools are known for. In addition to annual giving, for the past 2 years, one has organized an annual fundraiser to amplify our support even further. Events like our upcoming benefit are not just about raising critical funds, they are about strengthening the ties between our schools and our city. The success of this event has depended on the support of a number of sponsors and their financial contributions. Unlike other educational foundations in nearby communities, one is committed to holding our event in Orinda at the Wilder Art and Garden Center, demonstrating a commitment to our city. I would like to invite all of you to attend our April 11th event. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Liz Doust.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Doust, former school board member. I also chaired the library parcel tax campaign in addition to the Measure Z parcel tax campaign for OUSD. And I'm about to co-chair the AUHSD parcel tax campaign for Orinda. And now on to the real reason that we're here tonight. As a volunteer for one, when I found out that we were still charged the full rental fee as a nonprofit affiliated with our local schools, I was beyond surprised. Our schools are at the heart of this community, and the work of one directly benefits every student and by extension, every resident. I initially reached out to both Todd Trimble and Linda Smith to inquire about waiving or reducing the rental fee as a gesture of support for public education in Orinda. After my initial email, I was struck with another idea, however. In my 4 years on the school board and in the years since then, OUSD has worked hard to strengthen connections with the city. We have our 2x2 committee that meets regularly, in addition to other points of connection and collaboration related to safety, security, and programming. What if instead of waiving the rental fee, the city became an active partner in One Orinda's efforts by sponsoring our April event? Our sponsorships start at $1,000 and allow donors to have their name and logo displayed on all of our marketing materials, as well as at the event itself. This sponsorship would demonstrate a true commitment to our schools, our students, and the overall strength of our community. Since I have been involved as a civic volunteer, our schools have pushed to deepen connections with the city, recognizing that education isn't just a school issue, it's a community issue. So tonight, I would like to present a choice. Either the city potentially waive the rental fee completely as a show of support for the schools that shape Orinda's future, or it joins us as a $1,000 sponsor, demonstrating a tangible commitment to the success of our students and the vitality of our city. Either option would reflect the deep shared responsibility we have for maintaining the excellence of our schools and ensuring their long-term financial health. Our schools don't just benefit students. They enhance property values, attract families, and contribute to the overall vibrancy of our city. Many communities recognize this by formally strengthening ties between their cities and their educational foundations. By stepping forward, your support of this event would send a powerful message that Orinda stands together in investing in our students, our future leaders, and the future success of our city. I invite you to join us in continuing Orinda's tradition of rallying around its schools. Let's work in partnership to ensure that every student in our community has the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. Support from our city would enhance our longstanding connection and make a difference to all of our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything to ask or comment, or shall we? Our next speaker is Meredith Kreis or Kreis, and I apologize, I don't know the pronunciation. Thank you. Thank you.
Three minutes, is it?
Yes,
Okay.
3 minutes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Meredith Kreis, and I am a Glorietta Elementary School parent and Orinda resident. I am here tonight to follow up on the public comment I submitted for today's meeting. On behalf of the Glorietta Elementary School Community and Parents Club, we respectfully request the City Council expedite the placing of professional crossing guards at the Glorietta Boulevard / Martha Road and Martha Road / Hillcrest school crosswalks. The conversation of how to hire crossing guards and increase safety at these school intersections has been going on for years with no actual results to date. Less than 2 months ago, a child was hit by a car in the Glorietta Boulevard Martha Road intersection. School staff and parents are growing more concerned than ever with the lack of pedestrian safety and traffic controls at these major intersections. Based on the most recent updates from City Council, the council and school district superintendent are having discussions about crossing guards, but the council awaits more information from the superintendent before it will actually address the issue. The district and/or city are spending money to, quote, hire a consultant to review the schools to see if there are safety enhancements that could be implemented, end quote. But for some reason, after years and years, we have not figured out how to hire school crossing guards, despite the fact that our neighboring communities of Lafayette and Moraga have already both done so. We are concerned that while we wait for consultants to be hired and safety analyses to be performed, that God forbid another child may be hit or killed by a car. To avoid further delays in getting crossing guards in place, the Glorietta Parents Club has obtained a quote from All City Management Services, the same professional crossing guard company that provides Lafayette's crossing guards. The cost is less than $300 a day, including all insurance and company fees, to place 2 professional guards at the Gloria intersections, and would likely be less expensive if the district hired professional crossing guards for all 4 elementary schools and OIS middle school. A district-wide quote is being prepared as we speak. The company is ready to provide crossing guards immediately, and the Glorietta community would like to know why there is any reason we cannot have the services in place by next month. The latest update from the city makes clear its ongoing conversations with the district mean we are many months away from action being taken. Because we have a price quote in hand and are ready to move forward, and because this issue concerns the preservation of life and safety of our students and residents, we respectfully request the City Council expedite the placing of professional crossing guards at the Glorietta School crosswalks. Finally, if Glorietta needs to move forward faster than the city can move, we would like confirmation that the city will not stand in our way, given that the crosswalks are the official jurisdiction of the city.
Thank you. I need to ask you to wrap up, and thank you. Are there any comments or questions for the speaker? Our last speaker card is for Josh Richmond. We will also have a public forum for GHAD, but if you don't want to wait, you're welcome to make your comments now. This is public forum for the regular meeting, but it's.
I'll wait for GHAD.
Okay. It'll be pretty quick. And with that, is there anybody else here tonight who would like to speak for the public forum? Yes, please. And please state your name for the record.
Dave Shesgreen. I'm sorry, I didn't submit a speaker card, but I'm happy to later. Okay. I didn't prepare anything. This is off the cuff, but it is in regard to the crossing guards at the schools at drop off and dismissal. A longtime resident of Orinda. I've had 2 kids go through Glorietta. I have one now in 3rd grade. Recently, the administration has pulled a school-provided crossing guard the last 5 minutes in order to get kids to school or to their classrooms on time. It is, I fear, only a matter of time before a tragedy happens. And what I had to say isn't nearly well as prepared as before me, but we need to take action, and we need to take action now for the safety of our children, which is the paramount concern here in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? And it looks like we have another speaker. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Tony Chow, Glorietta resident, live in Orinda. Just wanted to state that for safety and security, I think it's paramount for all of us. I think, especially the fact that if we're allowed as residents to possibly pay for the school crossing guards, I don't think why there should be an issue, especially in the neighborhood or where we're all from that probably grew up with crossing guards. Of course, I don't know where everyone grew up with, but I was raised since a child having crossing guards everywhere I went, going to and from school. So I don't know why in this day and age, why, especially without sidewalks too along our roads, that there's, with this road, I guess what I'm trying to say is so much cars, there's so much cars, there's going so fast, whether it's Moraga Way or Glorietta or any of our roads. It just seems to be much more chaotic a bit with drivers, and we're just looking for the safety for our children. And I think with that, I guess that's a small ask, I would say, especially like I mentioned, if the parents or the local community will be paying for the service. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here tonight who would like to speak? Okay, great. And anything else before we move on to the consent calendar? With that, we'll move to the consent calendar section of the agenda, which consists of items that are acted on in one motion, unless a council member or a member of the public requests that the council remove an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar as proposed, or would anyone like to remove something for questions or presentation? With that, do I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
With that, we have an approved consent calendar, and we will now take a recess from the main city council meeting and move to start the Orinda GHAD meeting and table the rest of the meeting until after the GHAD meeting concludes. I will call the meeting to order for the Orinda GHAD, and thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting of the Orinda Geologic Hazard Abatement District Board meeting. First question, are there any changes to the proposed agenda? And if not, do I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now it is time for the public forum, which is the public forum for the GHAD meeting. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Additionally, a speaker has the option of addressing the board on an item that is listed on the agenda if they will not be present when that item is taken up. Mr. Richmond, did you want to speak now? Sure. Great.
Good evening, council. My name is Josh Richmond. I live on Big Rock Road in the Wilder development in Orinda. I am joining the Wilder board, our homeowners association board, soon as the subcommittee chair for emergency preparedness. And we've all been paying close attention to the fires in Southern California, and we have concerns. Probably most people in this room can hardly get fire insurance anymore. And I'm starting to study the layers of regulation that apply in Wilder, and it's really nauseating. I'm an attorney. I've read through hundreds of documents when we bought our home, and I've read through hundreds of additional pages since, and it's really difficult to figure out what rules apply where and when. I'm looking at the packet that was handed out tonight to discuss the transfer of responsibility, I guess, from the OG developer to GHAD. This patchwork of bureaucracy that applies to an area that's less than a square mile in size is really a finger-pointing exercise waiting to happen. If a major fire comes through this area and some areas haven't been mowed or trees haven't been trimmed, the finger is going to point back to council. People aren't going to point to East Bay Mud or to GHAD or to Fish and Wildlife or to the Wilder HOA or to Parks and Rec, to the county, to the state. I think it's going to point back to the city council and the leadership, and you see that in the Palisades in Los Angeles. So I would urge the council to try to simplify matters. Try to get the parcels transferred to GHAD as soon as possible. We're 250 homeowners. We each pay $3,500 a year in additional tax on our property tax bill. It's upwards of $1 million a year from Wilder residents alone funding GHAD. The north side of the Quarry Hill, as I call it, the north side being the section between the Wilder on-ramp eastbound to 24. So if you can picture yourself leaving the fields, coming back into the downtown Orinda, on the right-hand side, there's a hill, and it's a forest. And I walked it a couple weekends ago. It is dense, full of old trees that have fallen down. There's trash on the hillside. There's a burned-out Caltrans sign on the side of the road. It's a fire waiting to happen. That is apparently GHAD land, I think. I would just urge the council to take as quick action as they can to simplify the administration, the bureaucracy, get the trees trimmed, get the detritus out of the undergrowth. So if there is a fire, it can be dealt with, hopefully more efficiently. Second matter, can we create a walking path from Wilder to downtown? I know it's been talked about. There's a way to get from the Quarry Hill down.
So I need to ask you to wrap up. We have
One
close to
second.
3 minutes.
There's a way to get from Wilder to Brookwood Road down that conservation easement land, if it's possible.
I need to keep it to 3 minutes for all speakers,
you.
but if you leave your contact information, we're happy to follow up with some
It's on my
status on that.
speaker slip. Thank you very much.
Terrific, thank you. With that, does anyone have any comments or questions for the speaker?
No.
Okay. With that, we will move on to the first, let's see, we have a consent calendar, sorry. This consent calendar consists of items that are acted on in one motion unless a board member or a member of the public requests that the board remove an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar as proposed?
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that, we move on to the first policy matter, E1. And Haley, it looks like you'll be our presenter on this, so please go ahead.
Good evening, Vice Chair and board members of the Orinda GHAD. My name is Haley Ralston. I am with NGO, and NGO serves as the GHAD manager. I know most of you are familiar as you guys have been serving as board members for a little while, but board member Hoxie is new. So GHAD stands for Geologic Hazard Abatement District and serves to protect communities from geologic hazards, primarily in hillside developments, but any kind of geologic hazard. So tonight before the board, we have a brief presentation on both of the items for resolution 0125, and then just also a general update regarding the transfer status within the Wilder development from OG LLC to the GHAD. Correct. So tonight before the board is resolution 0125 to accept transfer of plan of control responsibilities for completing annual fire breaks and litter debris removal within the development buffer area parcels within tract 9074, and authorize the GHAD manager to execute a temporary right to enter agreement with OG LLC. So this first slide here just shows the overall long-term land use summary planned originally for the Wilder development. So this I know is hard to read as it's a very small, but in general just kind of shows the long-term owners of each parcel that was originally planned for the larger Wilder development. And then so this slide I zoom in further into the Wilder GHAD boundary there outlined in blue. So these are all the parcels and development areas that are included within the Wilder GHAD boundary, and which entities will own those parcels in the long term. So some of these are not currently transferred to their long-term owner as they are still owned by OG LLC, but some of them have been transferred. And so I can continue sharing that a little bit more. So this figure is, I know, also very large as well, but shows all the parcels that and their transfer status date with the GHAD board. So the parcels in blue are all the parcels that have been transferred to the GHAD board for plan of control responsibilities. And a few of them are GHAD owned, such as the detention basins and the former Art and Garden Center. I guess I could point to those if you like. This is the former Art and Garden Center over here. And then we have a detention basin parcel here, here, in the center over here, and at the end over here. Were you guys able to see the,
Here.
oh,
Oh, I see.
does it work? Sorry.
It doesn't.
It works up here.
It works
But
up
it
here,
doesn't
but
go
we
to
can't
there.
see it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe talk about the top of the screen or that.
Sorry, say that again. Okay, sorry. So anyway, so the detention basin parcels are, there's one kind of towards the top. Oh, I guess if you are looking now, here's a detention basin parcel. This is the former Art and Garden Center parcel. Another detention basin here, a couple detention basins in here, and then one at the end over here. And then the orange parcels are, which probably more relate to our next slide here, are the buffer area parcels that are being discussed this evening with the board. So the buffer area parcels are proposed to be GHAD owned in the long term. And to date, the GHAD board has accepted them for geologic hazard response, emergency response, and related response, but also maintenance responsibilities such as ditches and subdrains. The board has accepted those, but the board has not accepted ownership of these parcels yet, but will be the long-term owner. And so, but tonight before the board, we are asking if the board would like to accept responsibilities related to weed abatement on these parcels, as well as litter and debris. So one moment, please. So we recognize that the weed abatement has not been completed as timely before by the landowner, and it has been planned for in the current fiscal year budget that the GHAD can take on that responsibility to do the weed abatement and litter and debris pickup for these parcels, and that in the short term it can do that, but in the long term funding could come from the endowment that was planned for the development. And we can discuss further of that if there's more questions. And then, yes, just make sure I hit all my topics there. So the remaining responsibilities or parcels for transfer, technically still the development buffer area, as the GHAD does not own that yet, but will. So there'll be other landowner responsibilities related to that, just such as owning the land. There won't be any taxes, but any other landowner responsibilities related with owning those parcels. Eastern Hills open space will be a GHAD-owned parcel as well, but and so will Quarry Hill open space, but those are still subject to resource management plan requirements that have resource agency requirements, and those are still being worked on with those resource agencies, so they're not ready to be transferred to the GHAD for ownership and those responsibilities yet. The Western Hills open space will be owned by East Bay Regional Park District, but the GHAD will have more limited responsibilities and there won't have landowner responsibilities. And then, yes, so OGLLC would still be responsible for other landowner responsibilities in these parcels, especially the other ones except the development buffer area, but that are related to trespassing, unauthorized pass and activity within the those open spaces, as well as property taxes on those parcels. So GAD staff recommend the board approve Resolution 0125 to allow the GAD to accept limited landowner responsibilities for the development buffer area parcels that are related to weed abatement and litter and debris pickup. And GAD staff are available for any questions the board may have.
If I can just interrupt a little bit, we technically are on item E1. I appreciate that the presentation is just consolidated because they're such
Yes.
related matters. From time to time, I'll just pause and say, whether we're taking official action, but unless anybody else has a problem, I'd say let's just have the discussion be combined.
Yes.
I have a question. Thank you very much, Haley. In regard to the comment that our speaker had about the trees, can you maybe comment on that? I realize his comment is accurate that there's a lot of different potential long-term owners, but in terms of some of his comments, this also seems very well aligned with that in terms of taking responsibility for better cleanup, et cetera, and some of the things that were noted in your staff report. But in terms of the tree management, can you guys comment on that in terms of, do you seek to find somebody else that's responsible for that, or is the GAD responsible? So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to touch on that. Thank you, Board Member G. So within the development buffer area parcels, the GAD would be responsible for maintaining weed abatement or vegetation management in accordance with Moraga Orinda Fire Department requirements. And that typically includes clearing of grasses for a certain buffer around the residences, in addition to limbing trees, up to 6 feet or so. That's typically what we see. And so the GAD would be responsible for that. The GAD would not be responsible for maintaining any ornamental landscaping. If HOA has a landscaping strip around these areas, the GAD would not maintain that. That would be the HOA's responsibility. But within the zone specified by Moraga Orinda Fire Department for trees or grasses in weed abatement buffer, the GAD would be responsible for that.
So if there's a dead tree that needs to be removed, that would be something the GAD would take care of?
Yes.
Okay.
So I assume based on the funding that the Wilder residents are contributing, the GAD is fully funded to take on all of these obligations?
Yes, as approved by the board in June for fiscal year 24-25, there is adequate budget to do the weed abatement this coming spring and also address significant litter and debris removal.
Great, thank you.
I guess a follow-up question is, beyond the budget for this year, this is obviously a very big responsibility in a very big area. Could you mention a little bit more about that endowment topic and whether you have any concerns about your ability to maintain everything that you're bringing in your scope?
So, and I might need your help for this one, but for the, I guess kind of as I mentioned, is that currently we feel or have budgeted for that the current maintenance and operations budget and assessments can fund the weed abatement and litter and debris pickup short term, but there was allocation in the endowment funds to do some of that as well in the long term. So as those requirements are met by the developer and they can be transferred by the GAD later, then the GAD can tap into the endowment funds to address those items or use the endowment funds to address those items. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, the current value of the endowment is a little bit greater than that which is required to fund the GAD activities. So there's actually an excess, a bit of an excess in the endowment fund.
Thank you. If I can
Sorry,
just
my
ask
name
a
is Orinda.
follow-up question. I think of an endowment as being sort of a one-time thing, unless you're saying it can be funded with the interest on the endowment. How do you deal with the fact that this is a long-term operating commitment relative to an endowment, which is kind of a lump sum? I might be misunderstanding.
Yeah, we wouldn't touch the principal in the endowment. It would be just coming from the earnings on the endowment.
Okay.
That's good.
Are there any other questions?
I don't think so, not from me.
Okay. With that, I'm going to ask if there's anybody from the public who would like to speak on this matter. Seeing none, and I would say either E1 or E2, but seeing none, I'll bring it back up to the council for discussion, and let's start with E1, if there are any direction that you would like to give on just the general status of transfers of ownership and responsibilities.
It seems like we should make this happen as soon as possible. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any reason not to if the funding is in place and the plan is in place and we know the work needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm supportive of moving ahead. It's the right thing to do. It's part of the long-term plan, and I think it's probably better for the Wilder community for the transfer.
Same.
And I have nothing to add. It's actually really nice to see somebody taking sort of a we've got it, no matter who owns it approach to the maintenance, because I think that's what people really want to hear. So we appreciate the GHAD being willing to take on what, could be construed as liability, and you guys see it as a way to control what you can control and do a good job. So I want to thank you as well. And then on E2, does anyone have a motion or questions about acceptance of the 2 parcels?
The only question I have, and I saw nothing from any of the residents and other than our speaker tonight from the Wilder community. So I assume that the Wilder HOA or is supportive of moving forward with this.
I have not heard any feedback from the HOA.
Yeah, we have not heard feedback, but we know there's been a lot of residents and HOA board members for sure, definitely in favor of this.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything to the contrary, so.
I think our city manager, who does not have an official GHAD, might have an something.
I have been in communication with the HOA and the guys and they can see what's occurring and they please.
Thank you.
That helps.
Really good to hear. And so with that, do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll move that the GHAD board adopt resolution 01-25, the acceptance of transfer of the plan of control responsibilities for the fire breaks and litter debris removal for the 2 open space development buffer area parcels as designated in our agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And with that, it passes unanimously. And before we move on, I would ask if we have any board member reports on the GHAD. And is there a GHAD manager report? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just briefly add that we have completed fall maintenance, which deals with cleaning out detention basins to be prepared for winter storms as such. And so we've done that. We've also done maintenance related to the bubbler drains out there and the sub drains out there as well. We have also completed kind of the changing of the type of gates on the EVA road between Brookside along and Boga Ranch Road. And so that all has been completed. We also have completed our small scale kind of slope erosion control projects that we had planned within the development area. So everything is going well. And so far we have not seen any significant activity with the winter storms recently, but we've been checking on the sites as we get heavy rainfall, and we'll be available for any calls or questions that come in during the winter season. And then we'll look to meet with the board around probably late May or early June for our annual budget.
Terrific. Any questions?
Great.
And are there any matters initiated before we wrap up? With that, I move we adjourn. All right, so moved, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With that, we will go back and continue the city council meeting where we left off for our recess. And we are on to council member reports. Does anyone have anything that they would like to share on any subcommittee meetings or events that you attended?
I had an enjoyable time up at the League of Cities in Sacramento and thank the city for sending me, allowing us to go. It was great to meet other council people from other cities, and the training was very helpful. And so it was a good experience.
Great. I would share only that I we did a little educational thing on recent housing laws, and I've got a PowerPoint that I can share that I'll send via the city council. It was put on by ULI, and it was just a nice overview of sort of the lay of the land.
I did attend the Contra Costa County Transportation Authority SWAP meeting yesterday, which is our region for part of the county. I was appointed to the board for the next 2 years. And we did get an update on the efforts by CCTA on both the progress of the Smart Signals program, as well as their continuing negotiations with Caltrans over the grant for the evacuation study for the county. Both are progressing. The evacuation study maybe not as quickly as everyone would like, but there doesn't seem to be any reason why it's not moving forward. And the Smart Signals design may actually have the first segment of it designed by the end of this year. So it'll still take a couple of years for the implementation to roll out, but it is making progress.
Thanks. And I would just ask, in the spirit of trying to get better information sharing from the committees to the group, if there are any materials that you can share via the city manager or the city clerk, it would be wonderful to follow along.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. Anything else? With that, we'll ask the city manager for her report.
Documents is currently putting together this environmental documents for rehabilitation of floors 1, 2, and 3, and comments can be accepted in February 6th. We have a transportation plan. CCTA has identified future transportation system improvements, and so they are also asking for input for the survey. We include that input. Reminder that the CCTA student exchange program is still seeing most family. There's things out there that support the student. City, the Rotary Crafty is coming up on March 4th, and the chief and I are working with our consultant applied for opposite truck safety grant to try and maintain a truck safety system for the city. And their safety system to make technology. So here, that is something that we're going to receive. And I just wanted to follow up quickly on comments in the public forum and just remind council that council did give directions that the matters initiated to address the crossing guard matter, and extending the work with our superintendent to get a more formal request from her so that I can come out to this additional information on costs and what the actual request is. Prior to crossing guards in the school, and so I don't know what the request will be in the district, but I'm hopeful I get that and have confirmation from superintendent this evening, which will be with the principals giving us formal requests that we can work on figuring out.
May I interject with just a follow-up question? One of the finishing points was, if we come up with a way to pay for it, surely the city will authorize that on their land. Will we need to do anything formal, or is that something that can proceed on a less formal basis? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I guess the question is just, would it be appropriate for us to do a matter initiated that would give you that authority, or is that premature? Okay. Thank you. Didn't mean to interrupt. That was on point. Was there anything else in the city manager report? Great. And with that, are there any matters initiated tonight?
I want to bring up the question that our speakers raised about the cost of the event center and whether I understand that the rates are set by the council, but I don't know if there's a way to have a separate rate for nonprofit organizations, or if there's anything we could do to help them out in that way. I don't know if that should be a matters initiated or a review of the current structure and how it works. I just. Okay,
That's correct.
what is it? The nonprofit rate?
What is the nonprofit rate? Well, it varies. For the record, Todd Trimble, with Parks and Recreation Director. We have a number of different rates for different rental locations and facilities. In the case of the Art and Garden Center, and I apologize because I just left it's the fee schedule is updated annually and is on our website, and I can certainly get everybody a copy. Off the top of my head, the nonprofit rate is the Art and Garden Center can be rented as a single studio or as the three adjacent studios, 1, 2, and 3 in the larger section, right, at a slight discount. The highest commercial rate, we have commercial rates. In the case of the AGC, we have the commercial rates, we have private rates, we have nonprofit rates, and we have a special rate for OUSD and Miramonte specifically. With One Orinda being a nonprofit, that's the category that they fell into. And all those rates, we have both resident and non-resident rates. Orinda One would be a resident nonprofit. It's about the lowest rate that we have. It's about, on average, about 50% roughly lower than the commercial rate and about 20% lower than the private rate. Private rate, by the way, would be the typical Orinda resident who wants to rent the facility, would be private. So Orinda One has about the lowest approved rate that we have. $3, yes.
So how are we limited to discuss this, or okay, so my factual question is that they probably rented it for 5 hours, so it's probably around
6 hours, yep.
So it's probably
A little
around
over $1,000.
little over $1,000. So they're asking for us to waive $1,000. Approximately, yeah. But we've already given them a discount. All right.
So I guess the question is, for matters initiated, whether we want to consider some format for either sponsoring or waiving rates, or whether we want to discuss that, because I think we'd have to have it be an agenda item on a future agenda if we were going to discuss how we could help them in this instance.
Procedurally, you could make a motion, matter initiated, and then if there's a second, then there's a voting, but no discussion.
Right, then we vote on whether we want to talk about it.
Right. Can I ask another factual question? Did you say the difference was for OUSD or for a school district was 185?
It was $8 an hour difference.
That was what you were referring to? Okay.
Okay, would anybody else like to second the matter initiated to bring this back at another meeting?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that, we have a matter initiated to at least discuss rates for nonprofits and public entities in Orinda, or public affiliates in Orinda.
Particularly One Orinda, but yeah.
Okay, and if there are no other matters initiated, I'll move to that we adjourn to closed session.
I wanted to ask a clarifying question about the matter initiated. There seemed to be two issues. One was sponsorship, and the other one was rates. Was the matter initiated covering both topics or just?
I thought it was going to cover both topics so that we could discuss the best way for Orinda to support this sort of an event.
Does the motion seconder understand the motion that way?
Well, I guess it seems like, is the question of sponsorship foreclosed because we just can't because there's some rule?
Bring back the correct item.
Okay. When you seconded, was that the intent?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. My understanding was it's both topics.
Thank you. And it would just be interesting to know what we're able to do should we want to.
That's right.
For this and other similar groups.
And I fully appreciate the precedential value of whatever we do, but I thought we should talk about it.
Great. Introducing the closed session. The topic is a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant, do I need to read the whole thing? Okay. On the OC ongoing litigation matter. And before we do that, I'd like to ask if there are any public comment on the closed session matter. Seeing none, we will go ahead and adjourn.
Thank you.